Happy holidays, everyone. It's meteorologist Joe Martucci here at the Press of Atlantic City for the Something in the Air podcast. Hope everyone has had a good Thanksgiving. We are now transitioning into the holiday season. And, the month of November did have a couple of, interesting things weather-wise that we're going to dive into near the top of the record charts in a few aspects. But first, it's December 1st, Dr. Robinson. Just want to know how your weekend went.
Oh, it was boring.
Boring.
No, it was long. Had wonderful.
Why was it a long weekend?
We had a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration, and then saw family the next day. Oh yeah, there was Monday, just two
days ago.
We had a wonderful time at someone's wedding.
I don't know who it could have been.
I don't know who it was. No, really, congratulations to you and Shawnee.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know which anniversary you're going to celebrate along the way, but you could celebrate too.
Yes. Shawnee said both. She wants to do both. Yes.
It was just wonderful. It was anybody listening, it was just a wonderful, loving celebration amongst many, many friends, and it couldn't have been better. So
yeah, I did have part two of our wedding in November. So we got married legally. We got married at the church in New Brunswick at Rutgers on January 8th. And then Monday we had our delayed celebration, and it's kind of unbelievable because it's like now it's over, but it was I'm glad you were there. Both my weather parents were there. Jim Eberwine was there right next to you. We had a great time. It was 240 people. So my voice, a little raspy today, still 2 days afterwards. Dr. Robinson's I should be pointing this way. Dr. Robinson's going to be covering for me for most of this, but it was a heck of a time. And, I'm glad you were there, and thank you so much. It meant a lot to us that you were able to be a part of it.
Actually, I saw you twice, but one wasn't too celebratory. It was watching Rutgers go down to defeat.
Oh my God. That's right. Yeah. I forgot, I'm telling you, my concept of time is just so warped. So I'm here today. It's the 1st. I'm working tomorrow, and then we're going on our honeymoon to French Polynesia on Friday. So this is like it's almost like the week between Christmas and New Year's right now for me, but it's like a little weird week. Yes, we worked together on Saturday in colder and less happier times. But it was all right. We had a good conversation. We were there with my brother-in-law was there. My friend Shenunda was there, best man who you saw at the wedding. My friend Steve-O, who was also at the wedding with his fiance. And listen, Rutgers football real quick, 5-7. I think if you zoom out bigger picture in August, I think you would say, hey, I could live with that.
Yeah. There's always disappointment, but there's only 2 undefeated Division I teams in the nation right now. So
that is correct. And Rutgers is not one of them, but hopefully sometime soon. Right. And during this wedding, Thanksgiving, whatever weekend, we actually had some of our first snowflakes of the year in South Jersey as well. Atlantic City International Airport reported a trace or an unmeasurable amount of snow. I saw snow here at the shore on yesterday, Tuesday, the 30th, and even a little bit on that Sunday as well. So, just briefly, let's just talk about the snow. We'll knock that out of the way, and then we'll get into temperatures and the lack of rain.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't much of a month for snow. There was a dusting mid-month up at High Point.
Okay.
And yesterday, the 30th, High Point had a half an inch. And there were a number of stations on Sunday, I guess it was, when I woke up with snow on some rooftops and the mulch and this patio furniture, but not on my snowboard. My snowboard was wet, so it was a trace. But a dozen or so CoCoRaHS observers picked up between 1/10 and a half an inch. So, we were seeing that last winter up here in this big storm, and we had a couple inches in an hour. Here we're talking about 1/10 of an inch, but it's November.
Right.
It's November.
It's early.
And there's no connection, folks, between snow early in the season and a snowy winter. There's just no connection as you go through the season. So for those who like snow, still plenty of opportunities ahead. It's December 1st. It's the first day of, I call it climatological winter.
I'm right there with you.
Meteorologic winter.
No.
But happy winter. It's the beginning of the 3 coldest months of the year, December being a little colder than March. So we just break the year up into 4 equal 3-month segments.
I want to toss you a little bit of a curveball here because I'm actually curious for myself. So like you go to a place like Southern California, right? Aren't there like warmest 3 months of the year, like, I don't know, July, August, September? So like what happens there? Is it just all the same everywhere?
It's all the same everywhere, but
Okay.
you're absolutely right. September can be the warmest month of the year in San Francisco, particularly the Northern
Oh,
California.
Northern coast. Okay.
Oregon. There, when you get to the deserts of Southern California, it's more June, July, August.
Yeah.
But when you get near that colder waters of the coast, it takes them a while to warm up. So there is that delay as you're in a maritime climate.
Sure.
But no, everybody looks at it the same. And some parts of the world, folks, it's a wet season and a dry season. The dry monsoon in the winter, the wet monsoon in the summer, and they don't pay any attention to these 3-month intervals.
Right.
So we're talking middle latitudes, and in the polar regions, interestingly enough, you have 2 kind of coreless seasons, and you go very quickly from summer into winter, and then you get in that core of cold,
Right.
and then you go very quickly from winter into summer-like temperatures. So there, it's like 3 months of summer, a month of fall, 6 months of winter, a month of spring. It probably doesn't add up to 12 there, but you get the idea.
I get the idea. In fact, it's an annual tradition circling around the internet, the sun going down in Barrow, Alaska for the last time of the year. And then it doesn't rise for, you might know more than I would, but not for definitely a couple of weeks, if not months.
Mid-late January. And they just lost sun about 2 weeks ago. So it's about a 6-7 week period where the sun is below the horizon.
Have you been somewhere where it's been below the horizon all day long? I feel like in your travels, maybe. No,
I've been to Fairbanks. I've been to Fairbanks in December by choice. I've been there in the summer where the sun hardly goes down. I wanted to be there in the winter. I was invited to guest lecture up at University of Alaska Fairbanks. So I went there early December, and the sun gets about 1 degree above the horizon there. It's about a half degree, a degree below the Arctic Circle. And it gets quite bright. I mean, you don't need your headlights on a clear day. On a cloudy day, you have your headlights on most times. Sunrise is about 10 and sets about 3. They're shifting with their time frame, but the sun's up for a couple of hours, and it's right on the horizon. So it's like perpetual sun glare when you're looking in that direction. And people on campus had newspapers taped up to their windows because it was just coming in below their curtains and such. But it's even up in Barrow, if the sun gets close enough to the horizon, they get a dusk kind of brightness. But it's a different world. And
in Fairbanks, good.
Mind you, by the first week of December, when I was up there, it was 25 below. Talk about that drop.
Not bad.
Coreless wind.
Well, I was going to say in Fairbanks, so I know it's a thing for the UAF students. When it gets to 40 below, they take a picture in their bathing suit next to the sign that says 40 below. I was like, listen, I've done my fair share of body painting at Rutgers football games, but I'm usually done at about mid-October. Mid-October, I'm good. I can't go that's probably 60 degrees. I can't go down another 100 and do that. But enough about Alaska here. I do want to go back to that sunrise.
Enough about your body painting. Thank goodness you've grown out of that.
I've gotten a little too old. Although I will say, my friend Steve, who was at the game, we were supposed to go a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Do you want to do it?" I said, "If it's above 70, I'll do it." He ended up not coming though, so I saved myself there. What I was going to say about the sunset though, because I was just looking at this morning. I put this out on social. We're actually in our period of our earliest sunsets right now. So people, you're usually thinking winter solstice. That's the shortest day of the year. And it is, but it's a little, what do we want to say? Lopsided, maybe?
Yeah, a little cattywampus there.
Yeah. So we have our earliest sunsets now. And then our latest sunrises are actually probably right after Christmas until about early January.
Yeah. Yeah, the astronomer in me can't explain that very well. So I'll
We'll just let
defer.
it slide. Let's get
Yeah.
back to the things we're good at here. Let's talk about our precipitation, because that was really the big story here for the month. And you surprised me. You said it's one of the driest months, or driest Novembers, I should say, in history. I've been admittedly a little busy over the past couple of weeks, but you can fill me in. Fill us in.
Yeah, it was a dry November. It's let's call it a top 10. It varies around the state. Here in New Brunswick, it was the third driest, and we have records back over a century.
Right.
Near the boardwalk at the marina, it's the third driest, and the records there go back to 1874.
Yeah, 1874.
Driest spot in the state, 0.53 inches of precipitation. That's about it's almost 3 inches below average, 2.91 inches below average. So real low. The wettest spots in the state are a couple spots up near Vernon Township that cracked the 2-inch mark, but there are only 3 stations in the state out of a couple hundred that did that. A very dry November. And, all I can say is thank goodness we had 4 wet months preceding it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, and even interestingly enough, in parts of the state, not so much down your way, without Ida on September 1st or the nor'easter on the 26th of October, we'd probably be talking fall drought for September, October, November. But because, my house, I had 80% of my precipitation in the last 3 months fell in about 20 hours or about 30 hours, 30 hours on those two days. So a very overall pretty dry pattern, but it's been punctuated by these couple of heavy storms in September and October. But there was no heavy storm in November. The wettest day was the 12th.
Okay.
Where a couple places cracked an inch.
Big time.
We were getting 3 inches in an hour with Ida.
Yeah, and we were saying off air before, there was no Cape May bubble this month. It was kind of the reverse bubble, because Cape May County actually was over an inch in a couple of spots. I think you said Woodbine was one of them.
No, all of them. Woodbine was driest at 1.03, and Lower Township, we have a couple observers down there, but the largest was 1.32.
Yeah,
they were all around 1.2, 1.3. So very close together. And in Atlantic County, there was the boardwalk, the marina station at 0.53, and the wettest was Linwood, 1.45.
Okay.
Picked up a couple of heavier showers. And in Ocean County, Berkeley was wettest at 1.12, and Lacey Township, very close in number, 0.86 was the lowest. So everyone was dry. We just couldn't, the good news is no nor'easter, no coastal storm with major erosion. We had the flooding in October on multiple occasions for multiple days.
Yeah.
None of that in November. So
now I'm not saying anything. Let's just keep the good times rolling. It was a little surprising to me that you did say it was one of the driest Novembers, and I'm looking at history. And if you're thinking the same thing too, hey, it didn't feel all that dry. We actually did have, I was counting before, we had, and I'm going to count again, 1, 2, 3, 4 days of measurable precipitation, but we had a good number of days that had a trace or an unmeasurable amount. So it was drizzle or a couple spits of showers. So, it wasn't like we were bright and sunny every day in November, but we definitely were definitely not wet here. Did you want to add anything to that?
Well, from the 3rd to the 11th.
Yeah.
It was a 9-day period in there.
Barely
a drop of rain fell in the entire state. I mean, a couple places might have picked up 1/100 of an inch, and that might have been dew that they reported incorrectly as precipitation. So we went, you go 9 straight days, bone dry. That's indicative of, just some unusual conditions for this time of year. Now, that also ties into the temperature. So when we talk temperature, we have to remember that.
And that's a great segue into our commercial, because we're going to take a brief break here, and we're going to be back. We're going to talk about temperatures, and we'll have some other things to talk about too. But you guys are listening to the Something in the Air podcast.
Hey everyone, I'm meteorologist Joe Martucci at the Press of Atlantic City. Every time I do a talk, I say, if I could take this job again, I'd take it 10 times out of 10. I'm the only meteorologist at a newspaper in New Jersey. And down here in southeastern New Jersey, you all know weather matters more. Whether it's for farming, it's for the beach, or for your business. Weather plays a huge role here, and I'm making sure I'm doing things that cater to you. Whether it's talking about if your street's gonna have coastal flooding, or whether you need the air conditioner on at night at the shore. We're the only place that's doing a mainland and shore 7-day forecast. We're the only ones that are talking about whether your street is going to have coastal flooding. And that's why I want to keep this going.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Something in the Air podcast. New episodes, first and third Wednesdays. Join with me, birthday buddy, weather dad, attendee at my wedding on Monday, Dr. Dave Robinson. Let's talk about temperatures here as we went into November. And I think, after what people felt like was endless summer, not the case in November for the most part.
No, temperatures were below normal for the first time in months. I have one friend up here in Central Jersey who, in his backyard, comparing it to the local long-term station, says it's the first below normal month in his place since May of 2020. It was like 18 plus months.
Yeah.
But it was a cooler than normal month, which is really interesting because when they redid the normals this past year, and we're now looking at normals from 1991 to 2020 as opposed to 81 to 10. November was the one month that didn't change much in the warming department. It stayed pretty much stable. So there's something interesting going on with November, and it's probably just an outlier based on a decade or two of a look. But December's warming very rapidly, most of the winter, and of course, really every other month of the year. But November's an interesting one. And this year is no exception. Temperatures statewide are going to end up about a half degree or so. We're still waiting on the numbers to come in below average. At the airport, at the Atlantic City Airport, 2.1 degrees below average, which seemed a little bit low because the marina is only a half degree below average. Now, part of that's because the water stayed so warm, so late in the season. But the 2.1 is one of the larger anomalies. But it may have something to do, and we teased you going into the break, right?
We did.
With how dry it was.
Yeah.
Well, with dryness, you get drier soils, drier sands, and generally it's indicative of clear skies.
Right.
And clear skies during the day, even in the fall, can warm things up with a warm sun. And temperatures, high temperatures, were about a degree or two above normal. But with the clear skies at night, it allows the daytime heat to quickly radiate out into space. And when you get to November, the nights are pretty long. So it gives you a lot of that radiative cooling. And low temperatures outdid the high temperatures on the negative side. They were a little more than 2 degrees below normal. And thus that shifted us to the colder side of normal.
And that's unusual because usually we're talking about those warm nights and the days necessarily aren't as warm compared to average. So this is the opposite.
Right. This goes against the long-term look at things. But it makes sense when you look at how very dry it was. And so they compensate for one another a little bit in this regard. But, we're going to have to keep an eye on what that means in the coming weeks. It shouldn't be quite as pronounced as we get into the winter. Fall tends to be a very cloudy time. So when you get those clear skies, you're going to see quite a difference between your normal maxes and your normal mins, differing on either side of the ledger. So, you and I always come up with something interesting, even in a month that's relatively tranquil.
That's it. Hey, listen, there's always an angle, as we say in news. There's multiple ways to cover a story. So even on a quiet month, there's always a little bit something there. Did we talk about freezes?
No, we haven't talked about freezes.
Yeah, all right, let's get into it.
Matter of fact, and that going into the last podcast we did, we hadn't had a freeze in New Jersey
right
yet.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, it wasn't until late evening on the 2nd that Pequest, it's a fish hatchery up in Warren County, dipped to 32 degrees just before midnight. Now, by the morning of the 3rd, a handful, 10 stations in the north had gone below freezing. And that was the first freeze recorded in New Jersey this season.
Right.
Momentous? Yeah, because
Yeah.
I went back through the records, and going back to 1900, hadn't found one September or October without a freeze somewhere in the state. So
Yeah.
that was the latest first freeze in over 125 years of record in New Jersey. And then we started doing the countdown as we went through the month. And if you go to the Weather Network Facebook page, I did, and then there were 4, and that was Seaside, Harvey Cedars, Atlantic City Marina, and West Cape May. They were
The
the
usual
last,
suspects.
the usual suspects. And then we got down to 2. And it was West Cape May and I think it was Harvey Cedars.
Okay.
And then finally on the 27th, West Cape May went below.
Oh my
freezing.
God.
That ended the unofficially the growing season,
Right.
Jersey wide, but it took 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks of November to get everyone below freezing.
Now, kind of a similar thing you were just talking about with the latest first freeze. Have there been years where we have had some stations not have a freeze going into December?
Yes.
Okay, we have. Okay.
And I wrote about that a couple of weeks ago on the Facebook page. Atlantic City Marina. Oh, I didn't do my homework.
I think I know what year you're talking about. It's January like 6th. There was a late, super late freeze.
Right. And
I'm gonna look it up for you while you're talking. Good.
That was the co-op station at the marina. Our weather net station at the state police barracks by the marina went down below freezing about the 22nd of December.
Okay.
But the first freeze was, I think it was the 3rd of January.
4th.
And
it's the 4th.
Was the 4th.
Yeah, I'm looking at it
now.
now.
The first freeze was 20 degrees. In other words, they hadn't been below freezing, and then bam.
There it was. Yeah, that was yes, 20 degrees. And it wasn't too long ago. It was January 4th, 2016.
16. Here I said 15 and 17.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, when they froze. What I'm trying to recall what happened. There must have just been a big cold front that just pushed through or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's incredibly late. To go to Thanksgiving without a freeze along the lower Jersey coast, not all that unusual.
Yeah. And, I try to tell people a little bit about, the shore when it comes to our temps, right? Because, once you get north of Manasquan-ish, there's no real bays to the west of you. You don't have the Barnegat Bay, you don't have the Great Bay, whatever. So, like, I don't know if you can do like a 30-second elevator pitch, but like, how do these freezes and these, temperatures work compared to, let's just say that area from Manasquan down to Cape May, and then once you get north of there into Monmouth County?
Yeah, Monmouth County will cool off more. Although we've got a station at Seagirt, which is right north of Manasquan Inlet, right behind the dunes. And that froze before those others I mentioned.
Yeah.
And one at Point Pleasant on the canal. But yeah, when you get up, we have a station at Oceanport that's not too far from the coast, but it's not hugging the coast. It's at the racetrack actually up there in Monmouth Park.
Yeah.
And they get below freezing earlier. They see more snow.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you so correctly mentioned, you don't have that buffering of the bay. Notice we said Seaside Heights, we said Harvey Cedars, we said the marina.
Yeah.
And West Cape May is just down there at the tip. It's about a half mile inland.
Yep.
But you've got water in a couple miles in 3 directions. So that has its own little unique microclimate. We should have one at the lighthouse down there, which might even freeze probably a little bit later. Than our station at the farm where we keep it.
Right. Well, hey, that Cape May real estate's hard to get down there. That's some prime real estate down there.
That it is.
And your favorite spot. Maybe they can cut you a break because it's your favorite spot.
Years ago, we actually looked into putting a station by the lighthouse, but then we inherited this program from what's called the Rise Network, and there was already a station at West Cape May, so we kind of deferred on that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we're done with the temps, done with the precip, freezes. What else can we talk about? How about foliage?
We're going to talk foliage. And it's funny, just walking from the parking lot on campus here this morning, I took a picture across the street because I was just amazed how many leaves were still on the tree. And these were not beech trees. These are not oak trees, which are traditionally the lowest, the last to drop their leaves.
Yep.
Excuse me. There were some maples. It's a couple weeks behind.
Yeah.
And it's indicative of the fact we didn't get those cold temperatures during the nights of October. And, it caught up once we started getting below freezing in November, but never really caught up. And I don't know. I'd love to talk to someone, a botanist. I'm wondering if the leaves hold on so late that even when it gets cold, they're kind of out of whack. So they somehow don't know to drop their leaves, even though it's long past that time, because I'm just amazed at how many trees here in Central Jersey still have leaves on them.
Yeah. I mean, South Jersey, obviously a little bit later than Central. So we're hanging on pretty good. It was such a great, and I've said this in a couple different talks this fall, that growing season, April to August, you don't want any extreme heat. You want it to be wet. We were so good going to, and even September was good. We had those sunny days and some cooler nights. Then once we went to October, and I remember you were saying, because we were already trending a little warm with our nights, and that turn between September and October, you said, as long as we can cool down in the middle of October, we'll be fine. We never got the cool air, and then we kind of suffered what could have been a really great fall foliage season. But, hey, that's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles.
There was some nice foliage, and in some respects, I think the timing of some of the trees were such that they were more in sync than they sometimes are. So I wouldn't write it off completely.
No, I mean,
it
it's
could
still
have been better.
foliage. It's still going to be nice, but
yeah, we had more potential going into the fall than we had in a little while.
Yeah.
And kind of, in that sense, it was a little disappointing.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Well, at least, people got to enjoy what they have, and now it's the holiday season. So, everything's pointing up.
There you go. And the leaves will fall off.
Yes, the leaves will be off. Yes. By the time, we get to the real depths of winter, which still seems like a ways off, but we're going to be there soon enough. We'll see those leaves gone. All right. So, let's wrap it up. Tell us, like we do every month, where can we get the current conditions and New Jersey climate info?
You can get the current conditions within the last 5 minutes at njweather.org. We've got the coast covered a little, Little Egg Harbor Township.
Yeah.
We get the anemometer up at 10 meters. We got a lift to get it up on the tower this month. So we've got wind data coming from there now for the first time. And if you want to look at the longer term, read my monthly summary. Well, actually, we posted both websites, njclimate.org. And when the flakes start to fall, you can go to njclimate.org to look at snow summaries we do within a few days after a snow event that deposits 2 inches or more somewhere in New Jersey. And we'll list the reports of snowfall for whatever county or counties it might be. So that's the one place to go looking for you snow geeks.
Listen, I'm itching for it. Listen, down here, Pleasantville, where I work, it's been not a good past 2 winters here. Last winter was okay, a little better, but it was a little better than nothing, which was 2 winters ago. So not like you guys, where you guys are just floating in snow. So we're going to be, we'll be back with you to talk about the December update. And then I'm going to ask you on the spot here, so no pressure with everybody listening. Can we also do a separate end of the year review as well?
We'll be doing our top 10.
And the top 10, the top 10s in the year in review. So
we'll be doing top 10 in year in review. Hopefully get that ready. And we'll talk at the start of the new year.
That's it. Yeah, we'll do it sometime around the new year. But until then, everybody, have a great rest of the holiday season. Hopefully wherever you're going, you guys are staying safe and everybody's having a good time. And, 2021, also another obviously kind of weird year with COVID, but hopefully we're rounding the corner, although now we have the Omicron variant. We will say we're not epidemiologists by any extent of the imagination, but we'll at least be talking with you here virtually when we get towards the new year. So that's it. We're gonna wrap it up, everybody. Enjoy. We're gonna be back with you the third Wednesday of December, which is the 15th. I'm looking at my calendar. 15th. We're gonna have my new weather brother from Lee Enterprises. That's gonna be Sean Sublett, the Richmond Times-Dispatch. He is going to hop on. He's going to be talking about a little bit about himself, what he's going to do there. It's all part of our new weather team, which is really going to be rolling out in full force. So, till then, everybody, again, happy holidays. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys.